old guy. And they have banker's hours, you know.
Yeah.
So I think Tara's going to be available about 3:30. Let me double check.
Okay.
So we can record some stuff ahead of time.
Exactly.
Let me just give a real quick call down there. I know you're busy.
Yeah, like it's only because I've got to record the other one for.
I hear you.
That's all.
I hear you. Okay. Let's do this real fast here.
Because we can record.
Contacts me. Here we go. Okay.
Because we could even record like the first 3 seconds.
Yeah.
On to 3:30.
Sounds good. Have her on just for,
The last 13 minutes.
Yeah. Perfect.
At first, when you sent me the text, I thought, are we having Becky on?
No, I mean, I just thought she'd be a good point of reference. You
Yeah,
can talk about.
absolutely.
All right, let's just go ahead and record her.
Okay.
She's not answering, but that's okay. That's why she can't go until 3:30.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So
Hopefully we'll get her on the landline too. I think we're getting her in the office, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's much better. 1, 2. I'm not hearing
Oh.
anything.
Busy doing stuff. I forgot to plug into normal stuff.
Oh. The engineer here too, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Gotta wear all the hats. It reminds me of, believe it or not, when I was in Seattle, the second radio station I worked, you were your own engineer, your own call screener.
Yeah.
I was doing a talk show. Yeah. Well, there was a guy there who would actually give you an idea of who was on the phone and what they were talking about, but you had to punch the buttons, bring them on, and turn them off too.
The most important button, the dump button.
I remember one guy called up. I replaced this guy who was he wasn't real super popular, but he had his cult following, and I replaced him. And this guy says, "You wouldn't warn a pimple on Ed Kane's ass."
Well, you don't know me that well. You can't talk to me that way. Come on.
I kind of laughed. I thought it was funny.
Be a shot, man.
But I unfortunately let him on the air, so
Well, but you know what? Sometimes still makes good radio.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
fun.
so what do you want to cover then? The first.
I'd say let's talk some baseball Hall of Fame. Let's talk about Griffey and Piazza and Bonds. Why isn't Bonds in? Why isn't Clemens in? How long is it going to be? How long is it going to be? How long are we going to have to wait before those guys get in? That would be a good topic. Let's do some of that.
That'll be the second segment. So the first one's just our in a little interlude.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Yeah. Well, welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality.
Too long. Too many years.
We won't say how many.
We won't. Okay. No, actually we will. 40 years. 40. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that.
You should be. That's a long time.
Yeah, I started professionally when I was 23, but I actually got into business, quote unquote, when I was 17, right here in this building, right?
Is that right?
Yeah, well, a block from here, at the old Independent Journal building here in Marin County, which I don't know our listeners and our viewers even know where that is, but that's in.
It's the wealthiest county in
Northern California.
Actually, I think it's
in the States. It may be. It's just north of San Francisco. It's across the Golden Gate Bridge, and both Edward and I are natives of this beautiful place. So we've decided to stay here with our families.
You can buy a one-room dump, quite a shack for about $1 million.
It's not quite that bad, but it is. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. If you didn't grow up here, you're in trouble. Let's put it that way.
Okay, we're gonna hopefully have on Tara Vanderveer.
That's right. And for those that don't know, she is a very successful, long-time women's basketball coach at Stanford. Has been there over 30 years. Has won a couple of national championships, and has been at the forefront of women's basketball on the college level. And so she's really she's a smart lady.
Boy, 30 years ago, wasn't the basketball square back then? No, she was with us last year too.
Yeah, she's a great gal.
Now, since the football playoffs are starting today, we thought we would have that as our trivia theme: football.
Great idea. Yeah, I'm game.
Okay, we're giving away vacations for the first email with the correct answer to the Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And those vacations are free. Their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. And this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8%. secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. In fact, their loan-to-value ratio is only 55%. Check them out at PacificPrivateMoney.com. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we're going to be right back.
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know, it's good. I like when we have a little bit of extra stuff in this first bit because it's hard to
Yeah.
You know.
And this stuff is actually, we're still talking to the people.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. So don't use any foul
No,
language.
no. I try to be very good about that.
Well, you know, I'm not offended by foul language. I just find it sad that people have to use that if they don't have enough of an imagination or a vocabulary to use more descriptive words, which sometimes can be a lot more effective.
Well, sometimes like with comedians,
Yeah.
you know, like drop the F-bomb, and it's like, okay, so how many times
It's
you drop
appealing.
that?
I hate to sound like a snob, but it's appealing to the lowest common denominator. You know, and that's why we've dumbed down.
True.
I don't want to get off on a tangent about this, but we've dumbed down America by allowing this
That is
CRAPE to become part of the common, language. It's unfortunate. Anyway, my social thought for the day, for what it's worth.
That's right. We should have a certain segment. Social thoughts of the day, 2 minutes.
Two crazy guys talking about sports. That's what we'll call it.
That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, that was really. I hope Steve's okay.
Yeah, that's not. Well, you know, was it at Squaw Valley it happened?
You know, I didn't know where. I think it was at Squaw.
Yeah, I skied. I used to ski there back in the '60s and '70s before I gave up skiing. And there are certain runs that are big, bowls that just where you can come flying down there at 30, 40 miles an hour. And he probably just got picked off by somebody who didn't mean to run into him. But it's like being on the freeway.
There's something running too.
Yeah. Oh, that happens.
Yeah.
Squaw Valley and a lot of places, but especially Squaw because it's really crowded there.
Yeah, I've only been there once.
It's a great place.
Yeah, it made me a little nervous being in that huge gondola.
It's one of the best places to ski in America, but it's just really crowded. It's like Mammoth Mountain. It's like what's another place? Heavenly Valley.
Yeah.
Heavenly Valley's not quite as crowded.
I never skied at Heavenly.
Oh,
I like Sugarbowl because it's so
spectacular.
close, but
Spectacular.
I do like Park City.
Yeah. No, I lived in Colorado, so I got to ski at almost every major resort in the Rocky Mountains during my 4 years there.
And I have skied at Vail, even though I wasn't a skier.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't appreciate it as much as everyone else.
It's beautiful. And the thing is, if you live in an area where you're near skiing, it's not as expensive as you would think. But if you're where we are, where you have to stay overnight and you have to make accommodations and you have to drive it's a 4-hour thing to get up there.
Yeah.
And through traffic and the weather and chains and all that nonsense. Not interested in doing that anymore.
Not anymore.
No. As beautiful as it is, I'd rather go up there in the summertime when it's
Yeah. Or spring skiing.
Spring skiing, yeah, it can be fun. Sure.
Okay.
It's not so crowded. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start off with Hall of Fame and.
Yeah, let's talk some baseball, hot
baseball,
stove league, and just we'll
kind of
bounce around. Yeah,
2015, we still didn't really get a chance.
Sure.
This would be really the only week to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Now, Bruce, Tara's not going to be with us for another segment or two. So we want to talk about start off with the Baseball Hall of Fame.
It really is the Hall of Fame of all the Hall of Fames. I mean, it's been around the longest. It sort of set the standard, and I think that the standards are a little higher, Edward, just because of the fact that, the NFL, as much as I love the NFL, they allow a lot more players in every year. Baseball, maybe 2, 3, 4 players, every year. And this year it's, 2 guys, Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza, who deserve to be in there. I can't remember right off the top of my head. I'm sorry to say this, but I can't remember which veterans have been allowed in. But it's nice to see that they let guys in, sometimes posthumously, who deserve it. But Ken Griffey Jr., I think there's no question, don't you think? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish he didn't get hurt as much, just flying into the wall, making those great catches.
You know what happened was in Seattle, he played all out, and he was like Superman until he was about 32, and then he went to Cincinnati, and by that time he got the big contract, went to his hometown team, and the injuries caught up with him, but he was still pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Still pretty good.
But he's got to go in with a Seattle uniform.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I mean, I know his dad played for Cincinnati. That was his hometown.
Yeah.
But
no question. His best years were in Seattle.
Absolutely.
And Roger Clemens, again, and Barry Bonds are not going to get in for a while. Should they get in? I don't know. What do you think?
It's tough. I mean, you can't argue that the numbers part of it, but I guess there is always that question. It's like, well, if they didn't use the performing-enhancing drugs, what would their numbers have been?
Yeah.
And if other guys who, did use Like, well, Griffey, there was never a question. No one ever asked. He never even appeared that he had used it.
If he did, it was high. He did a great job of hiding it because
Hiding,
he stayed pretty much the same physically, and he
yeah.
broke down as most athletes used to in their late 30s.
I mean, Barry Bonds, had he not used it, I mean, he was putting up great numbers when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Getting traded to.
Well, in his first few years with the Giants before he didn't start doing steroids until 1999.
Yeah.
And he did that as a result of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. I remember traveling with the Giants, and he was really ticked off because he knew he was a much better player than Sosa and McGwire. And he's hearing all this stuff about how McGwire and Sosa saved baseball, after the strike with this home run chase. I'll show him a thing or two, and the next year he comes back 40 pounds heavier, and he missed half. People forget he missed half of 1999 because he suffered an elbow injury, probably the result of all the weightlifting and all the extra work, and he was carrying around all this extra weight. But then he got into a groove as soon as they moved into Pac-Bill in 2000, and man, did he take off.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wonder, it's funny, you wonder, with guys getting into the Hall of Fame, if they could undo people who got into the Hall of Fame. Because you end up looking at the numbers and you go, the guy was okay, and maybe at the time he was a Hall of Famer, but, now compared to some of the numbers, like put Griffey as an example.
Right.
So who's a quote home run hitter who got in only because he had 300 home runs?
Well, actually, I don't believe there are some players in there who have less than 400 homers, obviously, but they were so good in so many other areas, you know.
Like Ozzie Smith being
a shortstop. A terrific shortstop. Or you go back in time to the 1930s or the 19-teens, where the game was much different. The way the game was played was much different. Dead ball era, yeah. So the standards are high though, and I think unfortunately, Edward, I think a lot of the writers tend to get a little. They think they're so important that they're oracles in the game, but they do feel kind of like there's a stewardship there. So
well, it's kind of interesting. There was apparently there were 3 writers who did not vote for Griffey.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, is it just sort of I'll never vote for let's say someone until they've been off the ballot for tenure, or been on the ballot for 5 years or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, you're right. A lot of these guys have attitude.
Well, a lot of it has to do with even Willie Mays wasn't an unanimous choice. I mean, some people say, well, he should wait a few more years before he gets in, because this is the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but his numbers were. I know. Yeah, see, that's a very good example. And then you look at Bonds and Clemens. Now they got more votes than they got before.
Right.
So are baseball writers suddenly, kind of softening up?
I think that's part of it.
Really?
And it's the passage of time. The steroid era has now officially, quote, been over for a good 7, 8, 9 years, although I'm sure players are still using performance-enhancing drugs. They're just
hiding it a little better.
Well, they're doing it better, and they're not doing the obvious thing. They're not doing Androstein. They're not doing the one, what was the one? I guess it was
anabolic.
Yeah, where you can sit there. Yeah, where you can sit there and work out in the weight room forever. And it's funny because I think that was just vanity, because you don't have to be a big, strong, husky guy to play baseball effectively. In football, it helps because you're smashing into people. But in baseball, you don't have to. And Bonds, but I think what made Bonds a great hitter wasn't so much that he was a big, strong guy. That helped. Well, no, he lost speed. He actually lost speed. His numbers as a base stealer and as an outfielder.
No. I mean, he had a very quick bat.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Right? I thought you meant speed on the bases, because as soon as he put on all that weight, his stolen base numbers went down. His defensive skills went down.
Yeah, but he was no Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, he would have been the perfect DH. But they say that Barry Bonds could get maybe 15 pitches thrown to him in a game, and maybe one of them would be good, and he'd find that one and hit it.
See, and that whether you do steroids or not, I mean, that takes talent, because I don't think it doesn't matter how many steroids you take. If you only get one good pitch, I mean, you got to really turn on it well.
Well, there's a lot of speculation of whether maybe the steroids, maybe the drugs, or whatever he was taking, were able to just focus him in so much. And I can't describ what happened physiologically.
His eyesight too.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, he hit 370 in 2002, and he was 38 years old. He hit 73 home runs in 2001. He was 36 years old. And, usually baseball players, by the time they're 34, 35, even before, their numbers are going down. His numbers went up and when he was 36, 37. So, there's no question, a lot of good athletes, if they take care of themselves, and they can do that more often today because of the diet and because of they're so rich they don't have to do anything else.
Well, that's true.
They can play sports, that's all. But most athletes, by the time they're 35, 36, Mother Nature doesn't give you a body that's going to last. Take that much of a.
And he didn't play first base.
That's
he was
right.
still playing the outfield.
That's exactly right.
So,
Good point. Good point.
It's I don't know. So get Pete Rose too. His
Yeah.
numbers, obviously, we get him in the Hall of Fame.
We talked about this earlier, though. That's a different story. He cheated. He didn't cheat. He bet on the game, and then he admitted he bet on the game, and then later he said, "Well, I'm not guilty of betting on the game." So he never really truly recanted. He never apologized. If he had said, "Look, I made a mistake. I apologize," yeah, he wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame right away. But he might be in by now.
Yeah.
He never caught that. People say, "Oh, Pete Rose should be in." No, he shouldn't be in. He made him. He's got a disease which is called gambling addiction. He's never come to terms with it. He's never apologized for it, and as a result, he's never going to get in. And he shouldn't get in until he fesses up to what he did. And I think.
Okay, so let's say he completely turns over a new leaf and he completely confesses everything.
Then I think he should be let in. But I think Bond, in a situation with Bonds and Clemens doing steroids, yeah, quote unquote, they're cheating, but they're not betting on the game. They're not.
Sure.
They're not trying to affect the outcome of the game in a negative way. We're dealing with betting and with dealers.
What about a separate Hall of Fame, a steroid Hall of Fame?
That's we talk about that. The thing is, Baseball Hall of Fame is fun to argue about because it's really the one that set the standard. And the NFL is trying to kind of follow in its footsteps, but the NFL allows too many guys in. I'm sorry. You can't have a class of 12 guys or 10 guys in every year. That's just too many.
Is that how much it usually happens?
Well, not every time, but usually it's about 8 or 9 guys, yeah. It's usually about 8 or 9. And the reason for that is it is not, pro football has been around, significantly fewer numbers than Major League Baseball. And pro football hasn't been the number one sport in this country for, baseball was the number one sport for almost 100 years. Football has only been for about 30, 40 years. Yeah. So, it's,
Yeah, you're right. You don't have to let that many guys in. If they're qualified, they're qualified. If not. But it's all based on alternatives.
I will say this. I know we got a break. I will say this. One quick thing.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fames are great, but enjoy the athletes. Enjoy the games. I mean, the Hall of Fame is just it's the cherry on top. It's the whipped cream. It tastes good, but it's
an ego-driven.
Yeah,
thing,
it is. It is. Yeah.
All right. So here's our first commercial break on football.
Yeah.
Trivia question: how many points was a touchdown worth in 1911?
Ooh, that's a good
That's
question.
an old one for you there.
Ooh.
You've been in radio a long time, but you haven't been around since 1911.
I haven't studied football in that area either, although I know it was a pretty vicious sport. That they didn't play with helmets.
Yeah. And when they did, it was only the leather without the.
Yeah, that's right.
Our friend Bob St. Clair, unfortunately.
No, he played with a regular helmet though, but he lived to be almost.
He didn't have a mouth guard for the beginning.
Well, that's true. Okay. For the first couple of years, he did not. Yeah,
okay, stay with us.
Yes.
You'll find out the answer to that question. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back.
Yeah, Bob suddenly was funny because Bob was doing okay seemingly, and then all of a sudden he went downhill real quick and died suddenly. But he was in his late 70s, early 80s. He had a good life.
Yeah, I like it. He's so funny though. I mean, just hearing
great
him,
guy.
Yeah, just hearing him say about when they say, well, do you think that you could compete with the athletes nowadays?
Can they compete with me?
Yeah,
that's spoken like a true athlete.
Yeah.
Well, you think about it, during his time, you had to have other jobs. Now, maybe he didn't have another job, but actually he did. He had a career as a mayor.
Really?
Yeah, he was the mayor of Daly City for a long time. He had several businesses that he ran, not big-time affairs, but they made decent money. He always had a job in the off-season. In those days, football players only played 4 months a year. They only had 12 games. The average salary was probably $15,000, $20,000 in 1962. Which was good money in those days. My dad made a salary of $45,000 in 1966, and $45,000 in 1966 was
that was a lot.
That was a lot of money. Yeah, I remember a buddy of mine. His dad was making $70,000. I was thinking, God, that guy's wealthy.
Yeah,
and he was. It's all relative now. Kind of like Monopoly.
Yeah. Like
I own Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, I own all the yellow ones. I own Marvin Gardens and Berner. But I own Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and I got the green ones.
Yeah. Well, Fritz would say he made $75,000, which was a lot back then.
Yeah, it was. Well, and if you invested your money well and didn't throw it around, and you had a family, I mean, you could take care of them. My dad unfortunately took a bath because he took out a reverse mortgage on his home when he was 78, so he could fund some trips. And when we ended up selling the house, you know, it was worth $2.5 million, and almost $1.2 million had to be paid off for the interest.
Wow.
So my mom walked away with a little less than $1 million, and when she could have walked away with $2 million. You know, so we're not going to get. My sister and I, we're not going to get much out of it when she passes, maybe $100,000 each, you know, which is nice, but it's $100,000. Unfortunately, doesn't go very far these days. I got 50 from my cousin. I was very generous. Used it all, put it all in the house, and maybe bought a few things, you know, to take care of some business at home.
Well,
but it's gone.
Just wait till you hit college for young Molly.
Well, my in-laws. Here's the nice thing. My in-laws. This is really sweet because of my wife's situation. Yeah. They have offered us a free vacation to Hawaii. We'll pay for it. And so I set it up, and the whole thing is for 1 week going to Kauai, $7,500. We're staying in a modest place.
$1,000 a day is right on the.
Yeah,
that's how much it costs.
Because of the flight and the, you know, and we're not going to do anything lavish, but we're going to do the normal thing. You know, stay in a nice little place. And, yeah. There could be my cousin, my daughter's cousin is coming. So I have 2 little girls.
Okay.
Which will be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, that's really
nice.
nice.
They'll keep each other company.
Yeah. That's real sweet of them to do that.
It is.
I was going to take some of the money my cousin gave me, but we used it all up. But you know, good investment.
Yeah, but because I mean, your house is still on the market.
It is, and unfortunately, I think we're going to have to sell it. I don't want to, but I think it's the best thing to do.
Have you found a place you want to move?
No, and that's the problem. I think, you know, probably not going to get as much worth for what we're going to pay. But my hope is that we can get a place that we can buy outright, and we won't have to take a mortgage out because that's the whole point of doing this.
Yeah.
And then my wife and daughter will really like it because they'll be within walking distance downtown. They always like that.
Yeah.
And you know, we can walk from our house, but they got to go up and down that hill.
Yeah.
And I love the peace and quiet up there. But to be honest with you, I don't mind living in an area where it's, you know, a fair number of people. I lived in cities for 20 years out of my life.
Kind of used to that.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me.
Okay, so by the time we get done with this, she should be
great.
On.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. We got about.
Let's go to the year in sports.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. When we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question about football. How many points was a touchdown worth in 1911?
Well, it wasn't worth 6. I think
it was not.
Probably a little less than that, maybe?
No, it was worth 11.
11? Interesting. Wow,
I don't
11
think
points.
Points back then. But,
Well, I don't know if they had extra points back then. I should know these things. I do know one thing, that college football, there were so many deaths on the field during the early part of the century. There was an average of about 12 to 20 people killed a year, on the football field because no helmets. And President Theodore Roosevelt, this would be, I guess we're going back to 1904, 1905, was pressured into perhaps banning the game.
Yeah.
And that's when they decided finally to change the rules, and they didn't have the flying wedge anymore, you know, where, you know, they have 6 or 7 guys just mowing everybody down. You had a helmet, it wasn't, like you said, it was a leather helmet, not very good. You had pads, and they were rudimentary and small, but they were the forerunners of the much more sophisticated, larger ones that are worn today.
But the average person, you know, a big guy back then was 220. Probably.
Yeah, big guy was 220, about 6'2", and you know, it's just a matter of physics. You know, force meeting force. Now today, you got guys average size 6'5", 240. So you know, the tendons and the cartilage don't get any bigger, but the muscles and the body gets bigger, and so there's more force. That's why they're more horrific injuries today in some respects.
Yeah, because the late 1890s was kind of a big deal in sport in college football, especially for the Ivy League.
Oh yeah, early part of the 20th century, especially late 1890s and into the 20s. I mean, college football was a big sport in this country, and still is, but much bigger than pro football until about the 1960s. Till the early, and the reason that changed was television. Television began to take advantage of showing, and showed college games too, but it took advantage. And in 1970, of course, pro football took over with Monday Night Football, when the AFL and the NFL merged, and you had the Super League and Howard Cosell and Danny Don Meredith and, you know, Frank Gifford and Sunday games and Monday games, and, you know, it was a big deal.
Well, it was really like Red Grange really kind of put him on the map for pro football.
He did, but and Ernie Nevers, who is from our area, but, you know, great running back from Stanford, but, you know, these guys, generally speaking, baseball was the popular sport, boxing, horse racing, to a lesser degree, basketball and hockey. But it was college, not pros, not till the 50s and 60s, and really the 60s. The game that put them over was the '58 championship game where Baltimore. Frank Gifford got knocked out. Actually, was knocked out. Didn't play for a year by Gino Marchetti, and they.
Or Chuck Bednarik.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of you're right. You're absolutely right. It was Chuck Bednarik, and that wasn't in the championship game, but it was about the same time. But that's a period. The late '50s. There was a famous game, an overtime game between Baltimore and the Giants in Yankee Stadium, won by Johnny Unitas. And I remember watching that game. I was 6 years old, and my dad was telling me this is a special game, and that was the game that kind of turned the corner for the NFL. Yeah.
I wonder if the whole college deal. It pretty much is. You're rooting for your alma mater.
Sure.
So everyone. Harvard versus Yale. That's always going to be a big thing, and so with the Ivy Leagues. And I guess people never really back then didn't think, well, let's make this a profession and pay people.
Yeah, some people did. I mean, professional football has been around since 1920.
Yeah.
But it was very humble and rural. You had teams playing in Decatur and Duluth, Minnesota, Decatur, Illinois, and a little out of the way places. And it was mostly played in the Northeast and in parts of the northern Midwest. There were no teams out here on the West Coast for a long time. And then when they did have them, they were kind of modest.
And they had in the late 1860s is when baseball kind of came, had their first professional team with the Cincinnati Redlegs.
Right.
Kind of going around the country challenging.
Barnstorming, yeah. And they didn't lose a single game. How about that? In 1869, the first professional team, the Cincinnati Red Stockings, they're called, did not lose a single game. But they were so much better than everybody else.
How many games did they play?
They played something like 110 games, and most of them were in different, far-flung parts of the country. They came out here to the Bay Area and played a couple of games. But in those days, it was kind of like a glorified version of the Harlem Globetrotters. That's what they were. I mean, they were definitely a spectacle. They were an anomaly. They were, the best show in town.
Well, when even its earlier roots, as I understand it, was more of a gentleman's game. Because I guess the idea was coming from cricket.
Yeah, to a certain degree, there was that, but it wasn't. It got pretty rough later on. But you're right. I mean, generally speaking, though, the major sports in the United States have been played and promoted by blue collar men,
like pool and bowling.
Yeah, well, all of them. Blue collar. It's a way for blue collar people to enjoy their time off because they didn't have all the privileges and the money that the rest of the small ruling class had. So
well, especially going to a baseball game can cost that much.
Yeah, no. I even when I was a kid, I remember we used to sit in the upper deck at Candlestick Park. I had season tickets for Sunday games, and I remember we went to 18 games, including that they were I think 4 doubleheaders. So we went to 18 games, or maybe it was 21 games. And I remember that the cost of the ticket was $37 for the whole season for 21 games. And had 4 doubleheaders, and we're watching Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Juan Herschel. We're up in the upper reaches up there, but we're in the upper stand reserve, but we're still behind home plate. Better seats than I have when I go cover the championship series now. They stick us out. They stick the media way out in right field where you can't see anything.
How are you supposed to write about it?
Well, you got monitors in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm serious.
You might as well stay home and watch TV, and then
most of the reporters are sitting there, they're typing away and they're looking over their screen, and then they're looking at the monitor, and they're not really watching the game anyway. I'm serious.
And it's funny you mentioned about $37 because I think about now, like watching the Warriors. You go online just like Craigslist or something, and these tickets are like between $700 and $900 for decent tickets.
Well, there's 19,500 seats. It's sold out every game, and this is the best show in the world for pro basketball right now.
Yeah.
I mean, without question. And all that's with all due deference to the San Antonio Spurs and to Cleveland Cavaliers and all these other teams. But I mean, the Spurs and the Warriors are kind of at the elite. Nobody talks about the Spurs much. I think that's unfortunate. If they were playing in New York,
30-6.
Well, they've won 5 World Championships in the last 11 years or whatever it's been. They're only a couple games behind the Warriors.
Yeah, and they still have the core guys.
Well, we're going to talk about one of their coaches with Tara Vanderveer, actually.
Oh, good.
Who's a woman. I don't know if our listeners know this. There's a woman who's coaching in the pros with a NBA team. Becky Hammond.
Becky, yeah.
That's right.
I'll tell you what, you know what? Before we get to our next break, we got a few minutes here.
Yeah.
We didn't cover the year 2015 in sports.
What a great year. I mean, Kansas City wins the World Series. A terrific Super Bowl with New England's Malcolm Butler stepping in front of that pass and intercepting, and that wasn't a fluke, and he's not a fluke. That guy's worked his butt off to get where he is, and now Belichick's got maybe New England on line for a possible 5th Super Bowl championship, tying the 49ers and almost tying. I guess Pittsburgh's got 6, don't they?
Yeah.
But what did you think of the baseball playoffs this last year?
I enjoyed them. There was part of me though. I mean, I'm a Mets fan.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily dislike Kansas City because I was definitely rooting for them in 1985 against the Cardinals.
Cardinals, right?
But there was something kind of sweet about them winning just because of how close they came last year to our San Francisco Giants.
That's right.
And so I was happy for them, but I enjoyed the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the World Series was good too. And I feel sorry for that Daniel Murphy because he was like this hero.
Yeah.
On the cover of Sports Illustrated on the playoffs, he gets to the World Series and makes a couple of key errors.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you. I mean, everything goes in spurts and fits and starts, and sometimes you get hot for about 8 games, and all of a sudden it just disappears. You lose your magic. Where'd it go?
Yeah.
What happened? I can't hit the curveball anymore. I swung and missed at a pitch in the dirt, or I booted a ball in between my legs. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
It happens. That's a beautiful thing about sports. You get.
Yeah. At least it's not. They're not comparing it to Bill Buckner though, because it's not like it cost the war. That game.
I still think about that poor guy. I mean, he had a great career. He played for 20 years, but that one play is going to define his career.
Yeah.
It's a shame. He didn't deserve it. And I remember watching that. I was sitting in a hotel room with a buddy of mine. We were up hiking in the Green Mountains in New Hampshire, and in the next room were some Red Sox fans, and they're making all sorts of noise. The ball goes through Buckner's legs, and my buddy is a Mets fan. He starts clapping, they go real loudly. But these guys, you could hear them screaming in agony and breaking furniture. And the cops, the manager called the cops, kicked them out of the room. I went and looked around the corner. The room was in a shambles. They were young guys, and they were so pissed off because they were ready to celebrate the Red Sox winning. This is in New Hampshire, in a rural area, but they were young guys. 2 days later, my buddy and I are on our way back to New York, and we stopped at a bar in Providence, Rhode Island. There were 12 guys in that bar. I'll never forget. There was only a dozen of them, all sitting at the bar. And we're watching the game on TV, and they're going to lose. And they're up 3-0. The Red Sox were up 3-0 in the 7th game over the Mets.
Everybody knew it.
And they lost. And by that time, the guys are just resignation, because they've been used to it. And after the game, Buckner lost Game 6. We're going to lose. And they did. And say, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you. We're used to it.
I was actually in a bar, and my friend of mine was having his bachelor party, and we happened to be in this bar for Game 7.
Yeah. That was a great game, too.
Game? Wait.
At Shea Stadium.
Oil Can Boyd was pitching, so I don't remember. Was he pitching the last game? I can't remember, but I remember him pitching.
I think he might have been pitching the last game.
Yeah.
They were up. The Red Sox, this is the 1986 World Series. The Red Sox were tied in that series after losing the Buckner game, but they were leading in the last game 3-0 early.
But you just knew.
They couldn't hold that lead.
The sad thing is, I mean, you could even tell the Red Sox players knew they were going to lose, and the Mets knew they were going to win.
Yeah, you just sometimes you're fated. Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of sports. Sometimes it's the ball's going to go in the hoop. You're going to throw that winning touchdown pass. You just know it.
Well, Jan Stenerud, when he missed a couple of key field goals against Miami, had basically said, you know what, I knew I was going to miss it.
Yeah.
And Garo Yepremian, who recently passed on, was the opposite.
Yeah.
He said he knew he was going to make
it.
All right, tell you what, we got to cut to another commercial break here. That was a pretty fast one. Who was the first NFL president?
Good question.
Right?
Good question. I know the answer.
You do? Okay, you do have to go back a ways.
I know the answer.
And then it's a name.
Well-known name. Yeah.
All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be back, and hopefully Tara Vanderveer will be with us.
It's George Hallis, right?
Well, we'll just have to see about that.
We'll just have to see about that. I think it's George Hallis. All right. So I'm thinking we should call her on her cell phone, and then if we can get her on the...
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because she'll pick up the cell phone, and then we'll get her on her landline. Or if the cell phone sounds good. Sometimes they sound good.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So we've still got a few minutes. It's nice. I got a good walk-in with my buddies out at the bird sanctuary with Gus. He's in the car downstairs. It was really pretty out there. It was cloudy and cool, but no rain. Really nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Lots of birds out there. Lots of. We saw 3 red-tailed hawks, a bunch of pelicans, herons, ducks. It's really pretty. My buddy's he used to be a hunter, ducks.
Yeah.
And he belonged to the duck club, and now he just likes to look at them. So, but he's really defensive about his guns. Says, So and I said, look, I have no problem with your guns. You keep your guns.
Yeah, he's probably very responsible.
He's very
He's not going to go
responsible.
up and shoot up a mall or anything.
No. We were arguing about it though today. We were having a fun time, and I understood his point. He understood mine. So it's the beauty of America. We can have all these divergent points of view, and we can all get along. Although I sometimes wonder about our legislators. God Almighty, screaming and yelling at each other. Holy moly! It's funny though. I have a lot more faith in our government than most people do. It's sad. I think there's such a cynicism about what our government's doing, and without our government, we would be so fucked up right now.
Well, you have to have a government.
Yeah, you got to have laws. You got to have who's gonna run the schools? Who's gonna regulate transportation?
Who's gonna run the military?
Yeah. Well, who's gonna regulate safety, food, mental health? I mean, cars, licensing. I mean, it's shit.
Oh yeah, you gotta have all that stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's ponderous. It's unfortunate. It's gotten a little, but there's just a lot more complications now. A lot more people. Just think about our population has doubled since you and I were, pretty much since you and I were, not quite. 4 billion people in 1950, now 7 billion.
And the United States is what, 350 million?
Yeah, when I was born in 1950, the United States was 160 million people. So there's probably about 340 now, including illegal aliens.
Double, but that's only that's
60 years, yeah. But when my dad was born in 1920, it was I think it was about 60 to 70 million. So it doubled in 30 years, and it's more than doubled again.
Yeah.
Which is and we, God, imagine if we were China. China is 1.3 billion. India is 1.1 billion.
Yeah.
And those are countries that are physically as large as ours. China is almost exactly the same size as our country, but it's got 4 times as many people.
I mean, I'm wondering, for years, for years recently, China only had, one person.
No, they just stopped that. Yeah,
they just stopped that. But what was it like 30, 40 years ago? Did they have 7, 8 kids? Or 50 years ago?
Well, and again, it was more of a rural society, and it's only been in the last 20 years that they've industrialized, and it's only been in the last 15 years, the cars have been available to everyone. The pollution over there is
it's awful. It's awful. Well, but you're talking about major, Shanghai and that sort of thing.
In Beijing.
I mean,
but 20% of their land, 20% is you can't even grow anything on because it's been so badly polluted. 20%. Well, not 20% of the total land. 20% of the land that you could grow on, which is I don't know how much farmland.
But there's probably a lot of land there that they're just desolate.
There is, but it's the kind of land you can't grow anything on. It's like our desert, I mean, they have their deserts too. They have the Gobi Desert. They have the mountains of the Nepal, not Nepal, but the what is it called?
Sahara's in
That's in Africa. But the Gobi Desert is huge, and you've got God, what the hell is Mount Everest and K2 and all my brain is just not working. Yeah. Anyway, the mountains that create the break between India and China, the roof of the world. What do they call Everest and K2 and all those peaks? I should know.
Not the Andes Mountains.
No, that's in South America.
Rocky Mountains, but it's a mountain range, isn't it?
It's the biggest mountain range in the world. It's what creates all the monsoons in India, and it creates all that weather in Asia with the torrential rain.
Why am I losing it too?
Yeah. God. I'm usually good with my geography, but my brain is so scrambled lately. This whole thing with Colette is just driving me nuts. Yeah. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not thinking straight. I've just been on I'm like.
How is she physically?
She's doing great, I wish I could talk to her, but at the same time, I know she doesn't want to talk about it, and I respect that.
Yeah.
It's her way of dealing with it, and I've got to just man up and be tough about it, Christ, I can deal with it. I mean, I dealt with my brother's death. I dealt with dealing with my. I have my friends I can talk to, and it just doesn't. It doesn't make her feel good to talk about it. She's dealing with it the way she can, and she believes in living in the moment and not worrying.
That'll make her live longer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
when I'm with her, I don't even know that she's sick when I'm hanging out with her.
Yeah.
Or Molly. We have such a great life together.
I mean, how often is she even showing symptoms?
She doesn't show symptoms. Not at all. You'd never know.
I mean,
You'd never know. She looks better now than she did before because she started exercising like a demon
yeah,
and taking better care of herself and eating regularly. And I tell her, I said, make sure you have a nice breakfast. Don't drink too much coffee. You know, take a good meal with you to school because she'd always, I got to take care of the kids. I know, stop and take half an hour and eat in a good organic, salad with the alkalized juice and all that stuff. So she's doing what she can. I think she'll probably survive twice as long as.
She probably will.
Yeah, she'll probably live 10 years. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's better.
Could be even much longer than that.
Yeah, I hope so.
So,
anyway, let's give Tara. Let me give you Tara's number here.
Yeah.
Her number, okay, 650 723 0284. Let's try that one. I've also got that's actually her.
Hi, is Tara there, please?
Yes.
Hey, Dee, it's Bruce and Edward for the radio show.
Oh, okay. Let me transfer you to her landline, okay?
Great,
Okay,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, just a second.
So how much time do we have? About 13 minutes?
For this one, almost 14.
Great, okay. This will be fun. I wanted to get her on again. It's just that I'm glad we're doing it now because this is, just start for Steve. God damn, all the stuff that's been going on with him.
He'll have to let us know February or March.
He's definitely in a.
Hi there.
Hi, Tara. It's
No,
Bruce.
transfer you.
Oh.
We'll get there.
Okay.
This gal's a sweetie. She's working for Stanford for like 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very young.
She's probably about your age.
She is young.
Yeah. Compared to me. Yeah, that's right. You're a youngster.
There you go.
Yeah. What are you, 54?
No, I'm going to be, in a week, I'm going to be 56.
So you're born in, now don't tell me you were born in 1960.
That's it.
Well,
It's easy to remember,
yeah.
based on even.
Yeah. Well, you're a little bit older, or a little bit younger than my sister. My sister was born in 58.
Oh.
So I always think of 64, that's when Barry Bonds was born, that's when Will Clark was born. Jeff Kent was born in 68. That just blows me away. I just think that. I was 16 years old when he was born.
Well, Barry Bonds' birthday. Hello?
Well, for some reason, it's not transferred.
Okay.
Is there? Yeah.
723-4400.
4400. Thanks. You told me that and I forgot.
Okay,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. We'll call her right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take
Okay,
care.
Bye.
I
So-
spaced it out.
That's right.
Yeah. Isn't that a sweet picture? My daughter put that picture on my thing. Isn't that sweet?
That's a very nice picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Bonds' birthday, year and day is the same as Marco, my business.
Really?
July 24th.
July 24th, 1964.
Same day.
Yeah. My mom is July 16th. She's going to be 93. Wow. Went and saw her yesterday. I spent some time with her. It was nice.
You okay?
Yeah. She's old and she's infirm and she's
93.
falling apart, but she's.
Hi, this is Tara Vanderveer,
Okay.
Stanford Women's Basketball
All right.
Coach. I'm not available to take your call.
Okay, she's trying to
Please
call me
leave a
now.
message and I'll return your call.
Okay, she's trying to reach me on my cell, So I'll call her right back. All right. Oh, hey, Dee Dee, we tried calling her on her landline, and I think she was trying to call me on my cell. So tell her we'll try on the 4400 number again. Okay. Got 924. I'll call her right now. Thank you so much. No problem. Bye-bye. She's going to have to do the cell. That's okay. 650, you got that 924 0248. That's no big deal. Nice thing about having all these other numbers here. Oops.
Yeah.
Cool. Clink, clink.
As long as it's got good connection. I don't care.
Hi, you've reached the office of Tara Vanderveer. I'm not available to take your call.
Oh, she's calling me. Yeah. Hang on.
Get back to it.
She didn't leave leave a message. So
You know, why don't you call her call her back on
Yeah.
yours? That way she'll recognize the
yeah,
phone number.
yeah. Call back. Hey, is this Tara? She's not picking up her cell phone either. So it's okay. We'll get her on. No, we're not on a live show. That's the great thing about taping a show. So yeah, just tell her it's a different. It's not my number that's going to be calling her. We're calling on a different number to get her. So if she sees a number pop up that she doesn't recognize, just have her pick it up. It's us. What is your number, Edward?
415 451
451
and it's 6099
6099 or 6098 or something like that. It's a business number. So just when she sees that pop up on her screen that's coming in, just have her pick it up. It's us.
It'll probably say Equity Bank Corp.
Yeah, it might say Equity Bank Corp on it. Or the bank, Equity Bank Corp? Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
No big deal.
Do you want us to call and sell again?
Yeah, just call her on the
This is the
cell.
924?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about this.
No, these things happen.
Yeah, not a big deal. As soon as we get her on, we'll have fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hi, you've reached Tara Vanderveer.
Well, I'm going to leave her a message
Yeah.
telling her I'll call her back.
Call. Please leave a message. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks and have a great day. The tone. Please record your message. When you have
Because that's the only phone number that she wants us to call her
or
back.
press 1 for more options.
Hi, Tara. It is Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan from the Sports Econ 101, and we're calling you to do the interview. I know it's going into voicemail now, but I wanted you to recognize the phone number. We're going to give you a call back in just a few minutes, and then we'll do our quick little interview. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Hopefully she gets that.
Now, the other thing we could do.
You know what's probably happening is chances are one of her players she's probably talking to one of her players, something came up, and I know she's not going to blow us off or anything, but sometimes, you have to take priorities. Your players
Sure.
are number one, so I bet you that's what happened.
Tell that player to get handle her own problems for now.
I sent Raymond Ritter a text last night, not text, an email, saying, look, I know this is short notice, but I'd love to get Bob Myers on, because I know we've had him on.
We had one. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd be great. But
Yeah.
I don't like doing it at short notice. I said, we just lost a guest. Is there any chance? And of course, I didn't think Raymond's in LA, and they're taking off on a plane this morning to go up to Portland. And,
Yeah.
So, I wrote a few notes down here.
Yeah, we could do. We'll stop a couple minutes.
WNBA. So here's a couple things we could talk about with her. I would think, get her to, maybe off the top, if you want to start off the interview, say, before we get into women's basketball, tell us about how you got into the sport, because her story is really interesting. And she got into it a long time ago, back in the late 70s, maybe?
Okay. Because I'd like to find out also
She's-
about her attitude about like how it would be coaching women versus coaching men.
Yeah, definitely.
Even, I mean, she's not coaching men, but still.
Yeah, but I think she'd be fine. I think she just likes coaching women more because it's, I'm not saying it's easier, but it is easier. Women are more receptive.
Yeah.
They are easier to, they listen. It's funny, women I think listen better than men. They also talk more. That's why my wife always gives me a hard time. She goes, "You talk too much." I go, "Yeah, just like you."
Yeah.
Well, I'm just like most women. That's what I am. I'm not like her.
You're
She's more like a guy.
dude. She's like a dude.
Yeah, she's more like a guy. I'm more like a girl. When it comes to communications, I just am a very.
All right, let's try one
All
more
right,
time.
there we go. Hopefully we get through.
Hi, this is Tara.
Hey, there she is. Hi, Tara. It's Edward and Bruce. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Sorry for the little mix-up. I
Don't worry.
missed my landline at all. So.
Don't worry about it. How's things going for you?
And they're going great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm always thinking about you. Every time I just keep thinking, you just keep moving along down there and doing such a great job. And before we get into it, I wanted to congratulate you on your longevity.
One step back or one step forward, two steps
Yeah, good stuff though. You're an inspiration. You are, seriously. I'm not saying that just to make you feel good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get right into it because I know everyone's got a busy schedule. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Okay. Here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. And Bruce, when we cut to the second commercial question, this was a question. Excuse me. Who was the first NFL president?
It was George Hallis.
No, it was Jim Thorpe.
No,
It
really?
was. Yes, it was.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, George Hallis was a coach, and he was also an owner of the Decatur Staleys. I didn't know. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
One of the pioneers. But anyway, we have Tara Vanderveer
Yes,
on the
we
phone.
do. Yes.
Tara, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Tara Vanderveer has been the Stanford women's basketball coach now going back to, I believe, 89 was your first year, Tara? Was it 90 or?
1985.
Oh my God, it's been that long! Holy
About 30
moly!
years.
That is fantastic. And she's won 2 national championships in the early 90s, and the team has still been right at the top. They're ranked in the top 15. Edward had a question for you before we get into specifics.
Okay, about the background.
Her background.
Yeah, Tara, could you tell the audience about your background?
About your.
Getting into basketball.
How did you get into the game?
I grew up in upstate New York, and actually there were no sports for girls at the time before Title IX. Had I had their bench choices, I probably would have played hockey. I'd probably coached basketball like hockey. I love an up-tempo, fast-paced game. I just played with the boys in the neighborhood and just watched a lot. I watched a lot of practices, both high school and college practices. I ended up going to Indiana and playing on there where we had a 9-game regular season schedule. It was, again, before Title IX, and so it was very, very different than today. But at Indiana, I watched a lot of Coach Knight's practice and took his coaching class. Majored in sociology. I thought I would go to law school and wanted to take a year off. I went home and I worked. I didn't have a job, and my dad was like, "You're going to go coach your sister's team." And so that was my start, actually, just coaching my sister's team. And I got a good dose of parents right then, right off the bat.
I bet you did, yeah.
But it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And then I wrote to different colleges all across the country, and I got a graduate assistantship at Ohio State, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I was the assistant coach for the varsity, and I was the head coach of the JVs, and I've coached 2 undefeated teams. One is the JV team at Ohio State, and one was the Olympic team.
Wow.
AD team went 8-0, and the Olympic team went 16-0. So it was really, I kind of was at the right place at the right time, and because I loved basketball so much, I just studied it. I watched it. I really didn't. I didn't play as much just because there weren't that many opportunities, but by watching and studying it, I felt like that helped me a lot. And then I got my first head job in 1978 at the University of Idaho. I was there for 2 years, and I went back to Ohio State for 5 years. And then I was recruited by Andy Geiger to come to Stanford, and I'm still here.
Well, I want to ask you. You mentioned about Coach Knight, because we all know him. It appears to be very rough around the edges.
The volatile Bobby Nice.
Yeah. How was it being around him? I mean, how did he treat you?
Very well. He was, he allowed me to come to every practice. I watched him, for 2 or 3 hours a day. I took his coaching class. I think that the public perception is very different. He's a great teacher. He would be hard on the guys. There's no doubt about that. Maybe things that were done then aren't done now, 30 years ago. But he learned from a great coach. I also took a coaching class from Fred Taylor, his coach. And Fred Taylor was kind of a contemporary of Pete Newell. And I've been really fortunate to get to know Pete Newell and be around these different coaches that have been so welcoming and sharing. And my experience was very, very positive.
What's the difference? I mean, it sounds like it's obvious, but what's the difference, Tara, between coaching men and women? It seems to me women are more receptive, easier to work with. Men, you have egos, you have outsized personalities. Is that the major difference, or is it more
the money?
Well, on the money, but that's aside. I mean, that's the reason for the outsized personalities.
Well, there are obvious differences, but I think that young men and young women both, if you're a good teacher, if you're an upfront person, they want to be great players, and I fun to coach them. I mean, it seems like when you look at the Warriors, they're such a great positive example of young men that want to be a great team and want to be great players, and you check their egos at the door. Women have egos too, so I don't think that I don't think there are extreme differences. There might be extreme differences with just different personalities. So there might be some teams of women that are selfish players and they're egomaniacs, and there are teams like that of men. So I think as a coach, you just want to really be a great teacher and explain to players, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, and we got to get it done.
I was going to ask you, Tara, you coached many years prior to the WNBA. Now that there is the WNBA, how have you seen the coaching of the college kids, knowing that some of them may enter the WNBA versus, before there really was no other going forward?
I think that, being at Stanford, honestly, I've got more people thinking about their MBA or their PhD or their JD, whatever, than going to the WNBA. So I don't know that it really is that big a thing with Stanford, although, Tanae and Econ were number 1 draft picks by the WNBA, and they can play overseas. They'll make a lot more money overseas. Yeah. But they enjoy playing in their own country. They want to play in a professional league in the United States. And, it's exciting that it has been around for 20 years. And, it's just challenging because it's during the summer. And, a lot of people, they're not thinking about basketball in the summer.
Yeah. Interesting, too, that now the NBA, the last couple of years, has a full-time women's assistant coach in San Antonio, Greg Popovich, who I'm sure your paths have crossed with him over the years, hired Becky Hammond, who was a terrific player, not only in the college level, but in the Olympics and in the WNBA. Well, and she seems to be handling her duties, flawlessly. The players love her down there.
Well, I think that that's kudos to Coach Popovich, who recognizes this is a young person who has great basketball knowledge and experience, and a communicator, and he values her input. And I think that's George Karl also hired Nancy Lieberman in Sacramento.
That's
so,
right.
I hope that through kind of one person getting that opportunity opens it up for more people, where women are given the opportunity to coach both men and women, as men are given the opportunity to coach women.
What's been the most fun for you as a coach? Is it just working with young student athletes who are playing for the joy of the game and they're getting their education, or it's more than that, isn't it?
I think the thing that's really fun is to see young players come in as freshmen and how they develop and how they mature, and both on the court and off the court. To watch them grow as women, and just like right now when I listen to the Warriors teams and I see Roz Gold-on-Wood, who played at Stanford, I'm like so proud of Roz. She's very articulate. She does a great job as a sideline reporter, and to see the success of like Tanae is back, and she's doing some color commentary for the Pac-12 network, and Tanae is just doing a great job. So I think the most rewarding thing is to see the women you coach 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. You meet their children. You're very excited. And then I'll get a Christmas card from someone like Candace Wiggins that I'll keep forever. Just how it meant so much for her to play at Stanford, and how what I said to her, she remembers. And it's just things like that. When you have great players, you see Jane Appel who comes back to watch our games, and you just give them a hug, and you're just so excited for their success in their life now.
I was going to ask you about that, because Stanford obviously is a very difficult academic school. How do you handle it? Being a coach, where like you said, the kids are thinking maybe about the WNBA, but they're also thinking about really kind of going on into non-sports. And how do you handle that with balancing with the sports? Because you're concentrating on the sports part of it.
Right. Well, on our team, we have 15. I look at 15 grades as an example, and 13 out of 15, or almost 14 out of 15, they're right. It's almost 15 out of 15 have over a 3-point. Kids have human biology majors or engineering majors, and they're doing extremely extremely well. They learn at Stanford how to budget their time and know how to manage both and be very disciplined and very organized.
Well, how long are your practices?
Basically, I think a student athlete almost has to allow at least 4 hours a day to their sport. Our practices are about 2.5 to 3 hours long. But then you've got weights, you've got video, you've got to go to training room, other things you do other things outside of basketball. I mean, it's not the all-day affair that professionals do, but it is a big chunk of time. And so when we're going on the road, we're in the airport, books are open, computers are open, they're working on their projects, their problem sets, their papers, things like that. But they're around other student athletes. It's very doable. I mean, you look at how successful our football team is and the graduation rate. You look at all the sports. So they're in an environment that you're not saying, wow, you can't major in engineering. Yes, you can. You can't major in computer science. Yes, you can. But it is amazing sometimes when I look at some of the classes and the incredible professors that our student athletes have. It's really exciting.
Tara Vanderveer is the Stanford women's basketball coach. She's been there now for 30 years, and you won a couple of national championships. You won them fairly not early in your stint there, but within the first few years. And I know those were special moments, and you came so close the last couple of years. Is there? I would think you just talked about how much you're enjoying working with these young athletes. I would think that's the key thing. But is there any regret sometimes when you think, oh God, we came so close recently? I mean, the last few years you guys got to the Final Four a bunch of times.
Well, we've been to the Final Four, 6 out of the last 8 years, and that's obviously really exciting. And so you've got it. I call it. You're knocking on the door, and we were in the championship game with Econ, and Dana Pell, broke her foot. Sometimes you just, you're head at halftime, but you just don't have enough gas or whatever to finish it out. But I don't look at it in any negative way. I think it's just really, really exciting. Like, we're so proud of our football team, as an example, and they have now Final Fours. We've been to 6 of the last 8. So I mean, I think we just have to sometimes put it in perspective and not let the quote success monster get you stressed or
Well, the more successful you are, the more successful you will be, right? Because you're going to get a lot of these high school kids who are going to want to play for you.
Well, they might want to play for you, but they got to get in.
They got to get in.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
We have a great young team. We're a young team this year, and we have 4 great recruits coming next year that we're very excited about. And we're just improving every day. We kind of ride a little bit of a roller coaster. We can beat anyone, but we can lose anyone. And we need to really be more consistent.
Tara Vanderveer from Stanford.
Great coach, and Tara, continued success to you down there. Always good to catch up with you. And we're all going to enjoy the Warriors this year too. That has been quite a story, but your success down there has been for 30 years. That's a pretty nice record. Thanks so much for joining us.
And hopefully next time we talk to you, you'll be back in the Final Four.
That would be great. And if we get there, then we have a shot to win it. So
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Take the opportunity. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. She's a great gal, and talk about a woman who's been doing it. It's her passion, and she's been doing it almost all of her life. It's a great story.
Doing great. Okay, here's our last trivia question here about football. What NFL team was second to the 49ers in wins in the 1980s?
Good question.
Stay with us.
All right.
You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be coming back with some closing comments. All right. Let's say this, and then we'll do our 2-minute
You got to do
thing,
your
and we'll be done.
business show. You're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah. You like doing them back to back like that?
I generally do just because
Keeps you kind of in a groove. Yeah.
that, and also
Yeah.
it's too hard to
Still
kind of
it.
go. I've got to make sure that I'm here on Tuesday.
No,
I've got to make
and
sure
I
on
would think
Thursday.
also, if you're in the mood, you're in the groove, you
Yeah.
might as well keep doing it. You can transition from one to the other. Okay. 82, 87.
Are you trying to figure it out now?
I think I know.
That's good. I like that. That's a good interview.
Yeah, no, she's terrific. No, she's very straightforward. There's no BS to
I
Tara.
know. And we asked some good questions too.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I'm glad that you've got some, and we both got some different perspectives in there. That's important.
Okay. This is off the
Yeah,
guys could come in.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And away we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the last commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What NFL team was second to the 49ers in wins in the 1980s?
I'm going to pick the Washington Redskins.
You are correct.
Well, they were in the Super Bowl in 82, 87, and of course in 91, which is out of the 80s, but they had three different quarterbacks. Joe Theismann in 82, Doug Williams in 87, Mark Rippon in 91, and Joe Gibbs had him in the playoffs virtually every year.
Yeah.
So
they
actually beat the Niners in 83 and made it to the Super Bowl. The Raiders knocked them out, and then the Niners beat them. I think actually the Niners beat them in 90. I think.
But then they beat the Dolphins.
They beat the Dolphins in 82.
Yeah,
Riggins had the great run. 87, Doug Williams destroyed the Denver Broncos. In 91, of course, we're talking the 90s, but it was early 91. That was one of the 4 losses for the Buffalo Bills that they dealt them. Yeah.
Then 2 years in a row by Dallas.
2 years in a row by Dallas, and don't forget, of course, that whole streak started with the New York Giants, where Scott Norwood missed the field goal that would have won the game. It wasn't a chip shot. It was a 47-yarder.
And that was the only time they were even close. Was that one game?
Sorry, they got blown out of all the other ones, and never been back to one since the Buffalo Bills.
But if you remember, Frank Wright took over for
Jim Kelly
and destroyed Houston Oilers in the second half.
Yeah, in a playoff game in 1993.
I remember that.
An amazing game.
Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. Vince Lombardi said, the Green Bay Packers never lost a game. They just ran out of time.
Spoken like a true coach.
Of course.
Yeah.
And Brian Williams. I'm trying to think of Brian Williams.
I think Brian Williams is a news anchor, wasn't he?
Probably, or a coach.
Yeah,
It says here, you're only as good as the coach thinks you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, the coach has the final say.
That's it, exactly.
Unless he trades you to another team. Of course, you're playing college, you don't get traded. You might leave, you might walk up, you might walk away and somehow get on with another team if you're lucky. Good luck with that.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations.
I like those free vacations.
You like those? Who's our guest, do you think?
I've got a bunch of people lined up. I'm working on Bob Myers, the general manager of the Warriors. I'm working on
sports agent. Actually, Lee Steinberg.
Lee Steinberg. We're going to try to get him on, and there's a few other people. Darren Lewis, who used to be a San Francisco Giant, now coaching.
We'll get them all.
Yeah, we'll get them all.
They'll all be.
Yes.
There. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right.
Good.
Good.
All right. When this guy calls, I want to be able to.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
I told
him. Yeah.